गुड इवनिंग। मैं हूं आपका दोस्त मदन सिंह एंड नाउ लेट्स गेट ट्रैकिंग ऑन द न्यू टॉपिक। मैं एक्चुअली 2 दिन के लिए बाहर था। I had gone on important work for the company and I couldn't make a video. But I've been keeping myself abreast of all the latest news which is being all over the world. And I'm going to today talk about the bane of America. I say the bane of America, and that is Donald Trump. The bane of America means in the world, I think he's the curse. He's not an asset to America. And I had written or made an article or a video, if I remember correctly, when I said that Donald Trump may be the last president of the United States. By last, I don't mean physically the last, but it will be the last president who would preside over the liquidation of the empire, of the American empire. तो ये बात मैंने बोली है और लिखी भी है वेरियस आर्टिकल्स में, and I feel Donald Trump is on a path of self-destruction because he's not clear what he wants to do. He wants to make a name for himself in the world, but he realizes that he's got only 3.5 years left, and after that he will go into oblivion. He will become an ex-president, and he wants to do 101 things in 3.5 years which you can't do, and the net result is that he is in serious problems, and he has ambitions far beyond his capability. I think if you examine his record, the one thing which stands out is that he is not consistent in anything, and at the same time he puts his hand in every field, in every political event over the world. He wants to dominate, and he wants to take the credit for himself, and at the same time he doesn't have the guts really to go the whole hog, as we say in the English language. So he does half-baked things, but at the same time his entire aim is personal glory. I mean, that's he's thinking that he's going to get personal glory and then he will make a name in the world. That is his biggest flaw. I remember I was watching a movie, a long time back. Once There Was a Crooked Man, and it starred that famous actor, one of my favorites of all time, that is Kirk Douglas. It's the story of a rustler who's in the Wild West, and he does everything he wants to do for his own personal glory and, uh, aggrandizement. He wants to do that. He wants to make himself a very famous man. He wants to amass money, become one of the richest men, and finally, of course, he is bitten by a rattlesnake, and that's the end of the story. I don't mean that Donald Trump is going to face the same fate. No, sir. He's a far more intelligent man, but at the same time, he doesn't know what he's going to do. Now let's look at his various antics. The first antic which he had was that NATO is an obsolete organization. I thought he's going to do something big about it because I at one time was one of his great admirers. I'd admit that. But last 4 years he did nothing for NATO, to disband NATO or anything. And this year also he's just gone and attended the Brussels meeting of the heads of state of NATO, and he hasn't done anything revolutionary. That means he only talks and he can't bite. Now that is the thing. In other words, in English language you say, he can roar, but that's about all. He can't chew anything or bite anything. So here's a man who's a cardinal principle, a cardinal example of a person who's indecisive, who doesn't know what to do. Then we had this Ukraine war in which he had said he's going to stop it within 24 hours. Wonderful, I like it. But the war is still continuing, and the Russians don't seem to pay much attention to him. Now here is another enigma. The Ukrainian president, Zelensky, went to the White House and insulted Donald Trump. He had a big verbal match with him there in the White House, and Donald Trump didn't say anything good about him at that time. and he said everything good about Putin. He was telling that Putin is a man who is wanting peace, while Zelensky is the man who's hindering the peace process. But after the Brussels meeting, he changed his colors totally. He's forgotten about that insult which he had in the verbal match he had with Zelensky in the White House, and now he says he's a wonderful man, he's a great person, and has made a comment about Putin when Putin asked him whether he needed any help in Iran for a ceasefire. I believe Donald Trump told him, no, I need help for someone to face you. Now, this is the way that means he's turned turtle regarding Putin also. He doesn't know what he's doing, what he's talking. Now, this man also made his bombastic statement when he told Hamas that you better release all the hostages, otherwise, they'll be hell to pay. Hamas didn't release the hostages, and Donald Trump could do nothing. So, the question which I'm coming to is that he's inconsistent, he has vague ideas about what to do in the world, and at one time he was a man who was saying that uh, Kim Jong, the dictator of North Korea, is his friend. But now he says he's the biggest enemy and he's going to sort him out. How is he going to sort him out? Nobody knows. And he feels he's been giving a lot of rockets and other things to Iran. And now look, the Iran is the big dichotomy. He sided with Israel initially, Donald Trump, and then he decided that Iran must not have the nuclear weapon. Well, Iran continued the enrichment, and he gave the signal to the Israelis to attack Iran. The Israelis were successful, but only to a degree, because Israel is a very small country and it's got limited resources. It can't fight long wars and long battles. But Donald Trump led Israel down. He carried out a bombardment of the nuclear sites of Iran through the famous stealth bombers which flew from Minnesota in Central America, United States. And 2 days of bombing was there, and then he called a halt to the bombing and began to pressurize Iran for a ceasefire. Now, at that time, I think asking for a ceasefire with Iran was a terrible mistake, a blunder, because my information that Iran was on its last legs and was going to get thrashed very shortly by the Israelis. And if the Americans are persistent in keeping part of the bombardment going, Iran would have been all over. It would have been all over by the shouting. But he gave a reprieve to Iran. I do not know why. And now he's made a statement that let's make Iran great. I mean, it's something so silly. You can't imagine a man talking like this. And again, he says the Iranian nuclear program is finished. But my information is that Iran has been able to salt away a lot of their enriched uranium in other places, and the Americans don't know about it. And now he's asking for negotiations between Israel and Iran. But the point remains, gentlemen, that the threat from Iran to Israel is not over. The basic purpose of the war was that the perpetual threat of Iran to Israel would be finished. Donald Trump has not finished it, neither is keen, and he's betrayed the Israelis. That shows he has very poor judgment. And his poor judgment can be seen also with Pakistan. Now, he called Field Marshal Munir to his office, to the White House, lionized him, gave him a lot of things, and took him for a private lunch in the White House. And net result was Munir was absolutely delighted, and he made some promises to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump announced grandly that, look, Pakistan is on our side. But Munir just went home, and he had earlier said that Pakistan would recommend Donald Trump for the Nobel Prize, or rather sponsor his name for the Nobel Prize. And the moment he went back, he said, no, we decided to withdraw the name. I think Donald Trump must be wondering what the hell is going on. And also, He refused to condemn Iran, that is, General Field Marshal Munir. In other words, his total exercise with General Munir was a zero, a big failure. He should have realized better because earlier in the first tenure, when he was president from 2016 to 20, he had written a note that Pakistan was a perfidious state. It played against the Americans, followed a double system. He ran with the hare and hunted with the hound. And he says Pakistan is a country that cannot be trusted. And here is a man who is trying to prop up Pakistan now. I mean, it just beats my imagination how could do such a thing. And then in the first term, we were very great friends with Narendra Modi. And you remember that famous meeting, Howdy Modi, and then uh, his famous meeting which he had at the public meeting at the stadium in America, where in front of the Indian public, Modi went and said something very good about Donald Trump, that he would be the next president. But this term, he's been ignoring Modi totally, and he's been supporting Pakistan. And another unimportant thing, I think, is basically his claim that he had brought about the ceasefire between Pakistan and India. Well, he didn't do it. The Pakis initially said yes, but then they realized it's the wrong thing, and so they backtracked. And of course, then the Modi kept silent. So the net total of all this is that he's not a consistent man. He's basically a maverick. Now with China, I think he's deadly scared of China. That's the only conclusion I've reached. And he's also scared of Iran. Why is he scared? He doesn't want escalation of the conflict. He knows that the Iranians have said they will bomb the American bases in the Middle East, where they have the rockets, and they said we'll do it. He doesn't want that, and he's prepared to ditch Israel. At the same time, he wants peace, and he's told Iran, you can sell your oil. I mean, there were earlier sanctions on Iran that they could not sell their oil. Now he says you can sell your oil. And the Chinese, he tells them you can buy the Iranian oil. I mean, it beats my imagination. A man can talk like this. He started his tenure by putting 300% duty and all on the Chinese, and very soon there was tremendous inflation in America, and he realized he's bitten on more than he can chew. And then Chinese didn't cave in. He thought they would cave in, and then now he's backtracked totally. The fact remains that he has a latent fear of China, and that is one of the reasons he's reacting to China with kid gloves. Rather, he's treating them with kid gloves. It's a very sad situation, actually, that Donald Trump is a man who is not consistent in his approach, whether it is the G7, NATO, China, Gaza. He had a fanciful idea of Gaza, that he would vacate Gaza, throw all the Arabs out and make it into a holiday resort. Wonderful. I thought it was a very good idea, but it hasn't gone beyond the paper. He'd asked for Greenland and said the world desired that Greenland be part of America, but nowhere. I mean, nowhere close to getting Greenland. And he'd gone and said that he would make Canada the 51st province of the United States, and that's also a big zero. The Canadians don't want it. And the biggest bloomer he has committed is he's unable to force anything. That's the problem. Like the lion, he keeps roaring. He can't bite. He can't chew. He went for the meeting now in the G7 meetings in Canada, and there he made a bombastic statement that Russia should be here and the G7 should become the G8, and he also suggested that China should be called for the meeting. They are very revolutionary ideas, but you got to push it through. And he did not put these ideas in the agenda. He just spoke off the cuff and then quietly vanished after one day. He had made some very, nefarious plans to entice Modi to Washington when Field Marshal Munir was there, and the idea was personal glory and greatness, and all he wanted was that, and he would have tried to get both these two together, and then God knows what he would have done. He would have made some silly statement again. So, gentlemen, this sort of a man who leads America at the moment, I don't think can consolidate American power. That's the crux of the issue. I thought Donald Trump was wise enough to lead America forward. He said, "We will make America great." But he's nowhere to making America great. And you can see his actions, whether it's the G7, NATO, China, Ukraine war, or Gaza. I mean, he's just not stood by his friends, number one. He ditches his friends, number two. And he keeps changing his goalposts every time. And not only that, he is not consistent in his policy at all. And that is very bad for a leader who is the chief executive of the most powerful state in the world. Well, gentlemen, I've given you food for thought. I hope you like my video. Share it with your friends. And I look forward to further interaction with you. In the meanwhile, I'll say goodbye, God bless, and Jai Hind.